Hey guys, I just wanted to come on. I'm going to be starting here with Diego in just a moment. We are going to be talking about the Dutch test today, which is a hormone test that we use in functional medicine. And let me get him invited here. So I basically help. Hi, Diego.
Hey Nancy, can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, I can. How
Good
same?
deal.
Good.
Yep, we're good. We're good. We're
Yeah.
perfect.
I am here in my car. This is one of these examples of
Hey,
how
I understand.
stressful.
It's no worries. No
Yes,
worries.
and we're here talking today about how hormones, how stress, how it can actually affect our blood sugar. And I'm thinking that's
Mhm.
probably this is a perfect example, like when things are not kind of going your way and you've got a stressful thing that comes up, and you
Yeah.
can see that on your glucometer. And that's something that I really wanted to talk about today, because myself, as well as many of my clients, come to me and they're like, why do I have these blood sugar spikes? And it's not even around food. I haven't eaten in hours. And so that's really what I want to talk about. So I'm
Mhm.
so glad, Diego, you're here with me. So just go ahead and introduce yourself. And, Diego's a functional practitioner. So I'm so
Yeah,
glad to have you on.
absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you for having me on first and foremost. And yeah, my name is Diego Reyes, but functional medicine practitioner, functional health coach, and I own a functional health coaching organization called Complete Vitality. It is an online type of program, I should say, or really just, I like to say organization because I don't like to say it's a single type program. It is a new way of life and a new way of healing and optimization. What we're focused on and what I've been doing here for the past, significant amount of time here has been helping people identify the root causes of their issues to live their most complete, vitalized life. Hence the name. But I did start out in the medical field. I started out as a basically someone that would administrate medications to individuals. I started out obviously working in different types of hospitals and clinics. And what I saw was obviously the sick care system, kind of how you'd want to say it firsthand. I mean, I would see people that would just be taking these pharmaceutical drugs, and no matter what they were taking, they still weren't getting better. As a matter of fact, they were getting worse. And so I pretty much then jumped out of that and got into straight Ayurvedic holistic type medicine. So I learned about natural healing, different types of herbs, and then I got into functional medicine. And that was a whole world of things in conjunction with everything that I knew about just standardized nutrition and training because I was also a personal trainer. So then I spent all these years where I pretty much have developed all of this, I guess you could say, in the trench knowledge plus textbook knowledge in how the body works, the systems that work synergistically, and then also how pretty much your lifestyle and nutrition can help heal you and restore you. And obviously identifying the root cause as well with that and just learning and doing functional medicine. So that's like just a quick wrap up of kind of where I came from, what I'm about. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's been out from there.
I love that. So many different ways to approach things. Not, I just think that in this approach with functional root cause, we really, give the power back to the person with education, through lifestyle measures. And some of these functional tests, they offer, a more in-depth, amount of information about what's going on inside the body. So, a
Yes.
lot of of my clients, because I'm a nurse practitioner, as well. And a lot of people will ask, can I have my hormones checked? And we usually don't do that. I work in primary care setting, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
usually do that because it really just doesn't give us a lot of information. It's just like a speck of time. One test is not
Yeah.
really, the ranges are so broad for hormones. And so the Dutch test is something that I'm just kind of getting more interested in to learn more about, specifically because um, I, have been having clients come to me and asking, like I mentioned earlier, why am I having these huge blood sugar spikes when it has nothing to do with what I'm eating?
Yeah.
And, for people who, appear to lead higher stress lives, that are just, having stressful events throughout the day, they seem to be spiking their blood sugar very frequently. And so wondering how that contributes to other like dysregulated hormones and even developing prediabetes or insulin resistance coming from stress in general. Or so anyhow, so I'm just curious about the Dutch test, and I know that you utilize this test with your clients, and so I was hoping to dive into kind of what this test does exactly, how it's different from a standard hormone panel that we might do with a blood test in conventional medicine, and how this might help people understand their hormones better and their
Mhm.
blood sugar spikes that might be coming more from a cortisol. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So the Dutch hormone test, it's by far one of the most comprehensive hormone tests there is. Now, before we even get started, and I think people might watch the replay, I want to give an example of like what a Dutch hormone test looks like. So what I'm going to do here is share my screen. So obviously you can see my screen right here right now, and you can kind of see, okay, this is what the Dutch test will look like. So now this isn't the best view, but it's a hormone test that is way more comprehensive than like standardized blood work that like perhaps people would run inside or you would get from your primary care physician, your endocrinologist, even your gynecologist or OBGYN. It's going to measure a 4-point reading of your hormones throughout the day. So I'll first give you a moment to check out what this test is looking like. But now we can get into it since people have more of a visual representation of like what it is. So with that kind of being said, the Dutch stands for Dried Urinary Test of Comprehensive Hormones. So what that then means is that it's a urine test. Okay, and some people are thinking, wow, I can measure my hormones through urine. Absolutely. And it's been tried and true again that you can. And this is actually why some conventional models do not do this because they're like, you can't get your hormones tested through just urine. That's fake, whatever. Well, it's been shown through literature, science, that you definitely can get accurate readings from urine samples. Now, the top tier reason why I just absolutely love the Dutch test, one of them, is that, like I had mentioned, it's a 4-point reading throughout the day. So I mean, males can take it, but typically I love when my females take it. You're going to get a measurement in the evening. You're going to urinate on a slip. You're then going to urinate on a slip before you go to bed, and then you're going to do it as soon as you get up in the morning, and then at that 2 hours after you wake up. By getting these 4 readings, now there's a fifth slip that you'll be able to get if you do wake up in the night and urinate, which unfortunately happens with many women due to underlying dysfunctions, root cause issues. Now, with that kind of being said, that then is going to help us measure kind of where your hormone levels are at. But with the Dutch test, is going to show us how well they're methylating or getting moved throughout the body, metabolized throughout the body, and then how they're getting detox out the body. So when we look at blood tests, like what your primary care physician is doing or your endocrinologist, we're going to get a snapshot of time of like, okay, your hormones, your estradiol reads this. You have this, you have whatever, 100 estrogen, okay? Or you have 52 testosterone. Okay, well, that's what your body has made, but what's happening with it? Like, what's going on? And so a big portion too is that you want to make sure that you are not just blatantly taking this test randomly. And why do I say that? Because the thing about this is that you got to understand the mechanisms in the physiology of your hormones, such as like what impacts your hormones, what influences your hormones. So with the Dutch test, we're looking at those factors, such as like, okay, so I have low estrogen that is giving me PM, not, I should say, hot flashes, night sweats, breast tenderness, a lot of those perimenopausal symptoms. I have low estrogen, but what's causing that low estrogen? Well, what's nice about the Dutch test is we're going to also look at that cortisol level. So one thing as not mentioned here is that we're also going to look at your cortisol levels and as well as how they're metabolizing and how they're going throughout the day. Now, this is different than when you get your blood test and you look at your cortisol serum, because, like as mentioned, it's just a snapshot. Think of your blood work as a snapshot, which is still incredible, but it's a snapshot of time. And so, when you get that snapshot, you don't know what else has happened to your cortisol. And so, what we see here is that people will sometimes have where their cortisol levels are significantly high in the nighttime. So now they're wired and tired, so they can't go to sleep at night, or they have where their cortisol levels are completely low throughout the day. So this is something known as adrenal fatigue, as well as that the conventional models, so doctors and whomever, nutritionists, even dietitians, said this is fake. Well, technically, through the literature, it's not theoretical, but there isn't a diagnosis name, but it's also called adrenal insufficiency. Now, does this mean that you have, let's say, um, Addison's disease or Cushing's? No, it does not. It just means that your adrenals are dealing with some type of dysfunction due to other lifestyle and even nutritional factors. So, what is this all? What are we getting at here? What we're getting at is that, like as mentioned, it's that snapshot of time what blood work has. But with the Dutch, we're going to get all of these readings, but then how well you're metabolizing it. So hopefully that kind of made a good sense as we start to get into it here.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So, yeah, so I think a lot of people just think, I'm stressed or my mind kind of races at night, and it's more of it don't even realize that it might have something to do with cortisol levels being high and low at wrong times of the day. It's interesting that somebody can be, wired in the evening and mind's racing, and then, in the morning, so tired and fatigued. It's just,
It's so common. Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that because I mean everyone comes into me and they can't function without caffeine. They are still tired after like 7, 8 hours of sleep, which is pretty suffice. And just no matter what, they always feel tired, like no matter what. And it's like this is a full blown physiological dysfunction, meaning it's something going on inside that's causing these symptoms. And so we will get into it, but then like how does it influence your glucose? And it's actually funny. I'm having a conversation with you today because this week I probably read like 7 blood tests, and every single blood test, every single one, everybody's pre-diabetic. Obviously, what I do is not diagnosis, but I'm like, hey, like if you were in like clinical setting, your doc would say, hey, you have pre-diabetes. Now it's okay though because quite frankly, it could be helpful because we were able to identify it here because unfortunately kind of what they would suggest is maybe like metformin or something like that, which can be, I don't know, but we're going to try to figure it out how to get it down naturally. So what we're getting at here is that like what is it, probably half of America is probably struggling with blood sugar issues, probably
yeah,
more than half,
probably
probably
more.
like 70% are dealing with some underlying glucose dysfunction where their cells are unresponsive to the insulin signaling. So, what does this even mean in conjunction kind of with your work and kind of what I'm speaking of? So, as you continue to keep stressing, your body stays in an upregulated state. Your nervous system, everything is more upregulated. So, now what your body is going to think, okay, now remember though, stress comes in different forms. So, there's mental and emotional, like like what's going on with your work, what's going on with your personal life. Then there's physical. Okay, like am I under eating? Am I overtraining? Am I overeating? Or if I'm undertraining? We got these like two different like groups. And then there's chemical. So like am I dealing with an underlying like infection, like a dysbiosis in the gut? Or if I'm dealing with some type of like parasite, I'm dealing with toxins issues, I'm dealing with mycotoxins, environmental toxins, mold exposure, lead, mercury. Am I dealing with these things too? So think about like that 3 forms of stress can come. Now, what happens though is that the body doesn't know what is a good stress and a bad stress. You're training. So think about this. You got children, you got hours at work, you have underlying mold toxicity. So now it's like a bucket that overflows, this stress bucket. And so what happens now is that the body and your pancreas is like, oh, I gotta use energy. My body's in fight or flight. I gotta use energy. So what happens is your body keeps releasing insulin. And what happens then is that your cells become less responsive when you do take in glucose. Now, is this all 100% um, adequate? Most likely not. In terms of like, hey, is this somewhat of what's happening? Absolutely. So as time goes, then your blood sugars are going to stay elevated because they can't get inside your body's cells because you're insulin resistant. Okay. And
Okay.
so now comes the plethora of issues. Hormonal imbalances being one of the biggest. PMS, heavy periods, painful periods, weight gain in the midsection, anxiety, brain fog, fatigue, and all the weight loss resistance. Can't lose weight.
And the
And
Dutch
even
test,
thyroid
it
dysfunction.
looks at those other hormones as well, right? I mean, we're looking at
We'll
cortisol,
get
but
in. Yeah.
cortisol affects the other hormones too.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so absolutely. We can get into that here. So, one of the best things about the Dutch test is that we're going to measure your sex hormones, reproductive hormones, however you want to measure it. So, as mentioned and as shown, you're going to see your estradiol, which is the strongest form of estrogen you have in a female and a male body. You're going to measure your progesterone levels, which is like the holy grail for a female, and then your testosterone levels. And this is going to hone into females here specifically. And so just want to reference that. So with that kind of being said, and all those things mentioned, what is happening? Well, with the Dutch test, we're going to measure these, but more importantly, how they're getting metabolized and detoxed out the body. So how are we going to even do that? So as I scroll here to page 3 of the Dutch test, what's located right here in page 2 is located here in page 3, but it's more laid out to understand. So to begin things off, we are looking at your progesterone levels. And it's important because as a female is going through her luteal phase, progesterone levels start to increase, and that's what you want. But unfortunately, what's happening for most females is that they're actually dealing with low progesterone. So this is what leads to that PMS, the migraines, the anxiety attacks, the back pain, and just completely not feeling well around their cycle. Now, that's a physiological issue that women are dealing with, but they are getting medically gaslighted in terms of taking just birth control or something like that for their periods.
Wow.
Now, one of the biggest thing too is that what most people don't understand is that there's something called estrogen dominance that many people deal with. They feel swollen, watery, midsection belly fat, whatsoever. So what's happening is that their estrogen to progesterone ratio is off. Now this isn't a good example right here. I'm not this isn't like what it would look like. But what happens is that their estrogen is up here and their progesterone is down here. Because estrogen dominance is actually what estrogen dominance is progesterone to estrogen ratio. So if someone's estrogen is higher than their progesterone, which you can see right here through a great snapshot, not a snapshot, I mean through a great reading, then you have estrogen dominance. Now, let's get into the other part of the Dutch test, which is incredible, is that how well are you metabolizing these? And so when we look at your estrogens, because what the great thing about Dutch too is that we're not just measuring estradiol, like what normal blood work will measure. Yes, normal blood work will measure something called total estrogens, and so that would be like these three numbers, but not them individually. So we're going to look at estrone, estradiol, and estriol. These are three forms of estrogen that your body has, and each form gets detoxed through your body, through your liver, and then through urine, stool, or sweat. Typically through stool for estrogen. So the more constipated you are, the more bloated you are, the more pretty much more risk you are at estrogen dominance.
Mhm.
And so what we're then going to look at is like, okay, is my body detoxing these hormones out? Is it detoxing a plethora of ways that can damage my DNA? What does that even mean? So if your body doesn't have adequate, let's say, I don't want to get too jargon here, but 4-hydroxy, like this pathway specifically, the 4-OH, let's say it's not adequate, then it can lead to cell damage. Okay, damage to your DNA, which can lead to different issues like fibroids, even different types of Cs that are more estrogen type. And so that's really what that can do. And then the top tier thing it's going to do is tell us how well you're methylating. Now, methylation is a process of turning homocysteine into bioavailable nutrients in its simplest description. So think about methylation as just basically your body's way of your cells and your DNA to help with detoxification, hormone balance, neurotransmitters, and so much more. Just understand this though, when you do not have healthy methylation, that's when your symptoms occur. Brain fog, low energy, hormonal imbalances, infertility, PCOS, estrogen dominance, weight gain in the midsection, swelling all the time, always feeling tired no matter what. And we're going to see how well you're methylating.
Well, the test actually shows how well you're methylating, and it shows detox pathways as well for the
Yep.
hormone.
Yes,
Incredible.
exactly. So what then that means is that like these are the things that we can manipulate. Because remember, if you gotta fix the mechanisms that make hormone and detox hormone. Because like if I look at her estrogen and I'm like, oh, her estrogen's high, let me just take a supplement to lower her estrogen. Like that's called inductive reasoning. Okay. So if there's one thing you take away too, there's inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is thinking that I have high TSH and low T3. well, I mean, they don't even test T3, but that's a different topic. But let's say that they're going to give you thyroid hormone because they're like, oh, your levels are off. I'm just going to give you thyroid hormone because it's going to fix your thyroid. That's inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning, and what I do, and in functional medicine, not just functional medicine, truly what I do is, okay, you have low thyroid hormone, you have high TSH. Okay, what are all the factors that influence those numbers and those values?
Right.
So you have high estrogen. Okay, so what are the things that influence your high estrogen? Well, is your body metabolizing it effectively? So then it's kind of like, in quotations, recircling back. Is that what's happening? And for many women and for many people, it is, because what's happening is that in the environment we live in today, full of toxins, endocrine disrupting chemicals, whatsoever, it leads to our body to get all these estrogen signals through our receptor sites in our body to increase our estrogen. So what does that mean? Our body can't keep up with the burden we're dealing with. So now our body's backed up. But if we help with improving detoxification, then we're able to do that. Now, this is why it's important, because if you actually look at other markers of the Dutch test, not even I haven't even talked about this yet, but we can look at something called organic nutritional acids. So that is going to be, and I'll get to these markers too, but we're going to look at nutritional organic acids. So what that means for us is that we're going to measure some of these nutrients and markers that help with fixing your hormones. So one of the best ones we're going to learn is we're going to see where your glutathione's at. How well your one of your master antioxidants, we're going to look at where your glutathione is, as highlighted here. And we're going to figure out, is it adequate? Is it low? And so that could be something we can use for fixing the root cause. Because remember, as we look at this test abroad, I, as a practitioner and as someone who's read these tests every single day and help many women and succeed and all that, you want to look at your hormones first. I mean, my apologies, not your hormones, your cortisol first.
Hmm.
And then you want to look at these nutritional organic acids second. And then you want to look at your sex hormones. Because if you want to heal the hormones, you have to heal the mechanisms that impact your hormones. The HPA axis affects your hormones. Okay?
Yeah.
So when you think about this, you think about a female that's like in her 30s to 40s, and then she has a plethora of issues in her life. Not, I shouldn't say issues, but obligations of like children, work, spouse, whatever it may be, trying to just be there, be the person, be the best person you can be.
Yeah. The
When you have
majority
all
of
these
us.
things, yeah, exactly. So when you have all these things, that's a lot of stress.
Right.
But what's going on now is that your stress, your HPA axis, as I just mentioned, impacts your hormones. And then you add in perimenopause, you add in the hormonal fluctuations that happen as the ovaries age, and the connection from the brain to the ovaries start to age as well and start to, lack of better terms, turn off. Then you can only imagine the recipe that a female would go through.
Yeah.
Low energy, fatigue, 20 pounds out of nowhere, just gain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I want to say, as though, is that I never obviously will ever experience that. I feel for that. But more importantly, I want women to understand, hey, it's just a time where this is actually physiologically happening that can be fixed, that can be totally helped with. It's not just something that has to happen. And I
Right.
think most women believe that. They think that, oh, this has to happen. Like, I have to go through this. I have to do it.
Right.
Well,
It's a
so
part of aging, right? A part of so what we all have to go through. But there's obviously things we can do. You work mainly through lifestyle changes. Do you also recommend supplements in some cases based on the results?
yeah, yeah. So absolutely, we're going for lifestyle and nutritional strategies first.
Yeah.
And for some cases, that's definitely all they need. That's all they need. But
Yeah.
for some people, some nutritional, or I should say supplemental strategies and interventions are pretty incredible and really help with restoration.
Wow.
And what I like to tell people too is that, like, hey, if we're using suggested supplementation for your Dutch test, that does not mean you take that supplement for the rest of your life. Matter of fact, you shouldn't take supplements for the rest of your life, like specific ones. Um, what that means is that, hey, we're going to use these supplements, or I should say these interventions, for restoring functions, and when we do, we can discontinue the supplementation because we fixed it. So, like, for example, it's like, hey, my cortisol levels are so jacked up. Well, first we're gonna look at your lifestyle. What are the things that we can cut out? You know, cut out toxic people, toxic places, toxic things, both chemically, mentally, and emotionally. And then we want to also maybe use some strategies to help, like, okay, let's lower that cortisol level. Like, we can use some adaptogenics and things like that. And as far as like estrogen and hormones like progesterone, I'm like, well, maybe we can use some things in conjunction to support these levels. Because people come to me and they're like, dude, I want results. Like, I want to feel better fast. So I see that
Right.
Instagram, Instacart.
Yeah.
so so I think a big thing is that, like, hey, we're gonna get you faster if we use some of these interventions in conjunction. So that's always is always important. But yeah, I would say that supplementation can be very beneficial, very, very beneficial in the restoration process, in healing your hormones and getting back into alignment.
Right. But
Um,
doesn't have to be part of the protocol. If a person
yes,
doesn't want
absolutely.
to, and really wants to only focus on lifestyle, you have good results with individuals when you're really focusing on lifestyle
Yeah,
intervention.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time, because when you think about it, a lot of the stress is just these external things that you're doing to yourself. So let's say you're a female and you have high estrogen, it's probably because you have a very pro-inflammatory diet that promotes estrogen. I eat a lot of vegetable oils. That's been shown.
Mm,
Whoever thinks that vegetable oils are okay, that's a whole
yeah.
different topic. But
I know. I'm not in
anyway,
agreement with that.
having eating a bunch of or I should say it. Well, I should first mention, like, hey, if you don't fix your gut and you test your hormones right away, like, that's red flags. Well, number one, because, like, for example, like, depending where because every person's so different, just so different. But, like, typically, if someone's like dealing with a lot of gastric distress, a lot of digestive dysfunction, then we'll run a Dutch right away. But if someone's dealing with that dysfunction, then I'm like, hey, we got to fix the gut because your gut is influenced heavily with your hormones. It's not the only all, it's not the sole thing, but it is a huge part. You have to fix your gut before you fix your hormones. Just understand that. You got to fix your detoxification as well.
So
But
liver, right? Liver health. Really.
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But one profound thing about the Dutch, and this is actually incredible that they did. By the way, the reason why I know the Dutch is because I actually learned from the owner that made the Dutch, that's a doctor. So
Oh wow.
that's how I've been able to actually obtain what I'm doing. So obviously everything I'm saying is not just some theoretical thing. I've actually learned from really well-known experts. But with that kind of being said, one of the profound things about the Dutch is that it's going to show us something called a gut marker indican. So I'm gonna hone in here. So it's going to show us this marker called gut marker indican. And
Mm-hmm.
what this is going to help us with is kind of show us, like, am I dealing with gut dysbiosis? Gut dysbiosis, and then it's going to give us a range. This person's like maybe halfway. Is it the sole thing that's going to help us, like, really rule out, do you have a gut dysbiosis? No, but is it great? Yes, absolutely. So if those that are watching this that don't know what that means, that pretty much means that there's an imbalance of bacteria in my gut. Typically a negative gram bacteria, so opportunistic bacteria is how I'd say it. And the only reason I know this is because I test people's stool every day too through GI map test, which might be another topic we can talk about. But
Yeah,
with
we'll
that kind of
address
being
that.
with that kind of being said, though, if I look at this and I'm like, oh, you have a gut dysbiosis, oh, that totally makes sense why your body's having a hard time getting rid of that excess estrogen, because in your small intestines there is an imbalance. Because remember, there's three phases of detoxification. Okay, phase one, off the top, I mean, it's just so much. I mean, off the top, I'd say it's where we have the fat soluble toxin, which would be excess estrogen. And then phase two, which is also in the liver, is the conjugation, where we turn it to a water soluble. But then everyone forgets about phase three, which is the excretion of the toxins. And that's in our stool, our small intestine, through
Mm-hmm.
whatever, so what happens is that if you're dealing with a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, something called SIBO, however you want to say it, SIBO, then it's going to lead to these hormonal issues. Okay, so that's why you have to really, really look at the body holistically. That's why you can't just willy-nilly go take a test like this and just be like, oh yeah, I got low estrogen. You have to really think, remember, deductively, and then understanding, like, your body and holistic viewpoint. Because
Right.
if I looked at this and I'm just like, oh, let's recommend some supplementation, then it's like No, you just swap the medication for supplements. And I think that's what most practitioners do.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because that's how they make some more money. Whatever it may be, you do it. But it's not going to fix the individual. Okay? And with me and what I've been doing it for a while, I'm predicated on results. And that comes with fixing the actual issue at hand. Because
Yeah.
I still get texts where it's like year or 2 years later and they're like, Diego, I still feel great. Because I don't measure the results with me. I measure the results after me because that means they actually succeeded with me. But needless to say, what I'm saying is that, like, okay, we're going to look at something like this, like your gut, because it influences your hormones. Now, one of the main things that I want to hone in on, I know we're kind of going everywhere right now, but um, is like PCOS and like and just like androgen dominance or androgen issues. So what does that even mean? So when we look at your cortisol levels, your cortisol is obviously released from your adrenal glands, which are located above your kidneys. Okay, so your kidneys release cortisol, or my apologies, your adrenal glands release cortisol,
Hmm.
but your adrenal glands also release a hormone called DHEA. That's right here. So DHEA, dipyhydro something androsterone. So it's a type of androgen that's a precursor to other hormones. So what that means is that if my body is making so much cortisol, then it could be making so much DHEA. And this is not an example of that, but for example, what does that lead to? Swollenness, water retention, cysts in the ovaries.
Right.
Now, I want to hold into this too. So when we look at something called your, and this is, the females don't ever look at this because they think that testosterone is a man thing or their androgens are their male a male thing only. No, it is a high quality of life for females, especially if they're in their 30s and 40s or anywhere age, to be frank. But
Sure.
when we look at it, it's like, okay, if my androgens are low, like this example, then my testosterone's low. Like this female's testosterone shot. I mean, this is a sample, so
Wow.
this isn't someone's like real name or anything like that, but it's a sample report. But like this testosterone shot.
Wow.
And then when you look at her androgens, oh, this is why I have no motivation. This is why I can't build muscle in the gym because I have no androgens.
Ah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, so what does this mean? Usually it's actually the exact opposite for women that deal with PCOS, infertility, swollenness, acne being a huge one as well.
Wow.
So what does this mean in totality? In totality, what this truly does mean is that if you're not looking at these markers, which blood work quite frankly does not, then you don't know what's driving your symptoms. This is why your blood work is normal, but you don't feel normal.
Right.
It's so common. Like
Yeah.
it's actually like comedy of how common that is. But what I'm trying to get at is that, like, if a female has PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, one of the root causes to that, obviously you know the biggest one, insulin resistance, but the one of the root causes to that is androgen dominance. And as though it's not really classified, and obviously the conventional model, they're just going to give metformin, birth control, spironolactone. They're going to give all these medications. Well, trust me, I gave the medications. So that's how I know. But they're going to give them these medications, and it's not going to fix the root cause. So for like a female that's dealing with that, now I can go. I mean, it depends on how long you want to go, but like I can fix all these issues because I do it every day. So like for example, if a female's dealing that, we got to get her cortisol levels down because that's actually in congruence with how she's making DHEA.
Okay. So the cortisol levels again are impacting
Yes.
this hormone as well. I know for
Just like
progesterone,
it's,
it just drives it down, which then can create that imbalance with estrogen dominance. So I know cortisol is really playing a part in the hormone production in general, in many of the
yeah.
hormones.
So I'm gonna teach you a term today. I know this feels like a more educational lesson, but what I'm getting at here is that, like, you're gonna learn something called progesterone steal. You have something called progesterone steal, pregnenolone steal. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but what it is essentially what happens is if your body keeps producing too much cortisol, it's going to be like I don't need to make sex hormones. I don't need to make hormones to make me feel good and have a proper ovulation. I'm going to make hormones to help me with like whatever attack is going on because your body thinks there's an attack outside.
Right.
You know, my body thinks there's an attack, so I'm going to start pulling. My pancreas is going to start producing more insulin because I'm like, dude, I gotta have this energy so I can fight whatever bear I'm in front of, even though it's not a bear. It's this text that I just read. It's the
Right.
modern day lifestyle, you know.
Right.
So anyway, what's happening is that our bodies go, and so it's like I'm not going to make any more hormones. I'm only going to make cortisol hormone because cortisol is a hormone. So it's going to steal from progesterone. So this then is going to lead to a progesterone decline, which is the most common thing, no matter the age of a female. The most common thing is low progesterone. If
Yeah.
there's one thing you take away, low progesterone being the main reason to your hormone issues.
And
Now,
therefore your symptoms, right? The symptoms
yep,
people are coming
yep, the
into it.
issues, yep, the PMS, the PMDD, all of it, every single one, the migraines, just feeling not well.
Right.
Estrogen dominance going to a first, like very close first, but a low progesterone, not tell you, low progesterone being one of the main reasons to why I see women just struggle with the issues they do every single day.
Typically,
Doesn't
how
come
long does it take for people once you get these results and you get them on a lifestyle plan? I mean, how soon are people feeling better?
all days.
Yeah.
Days. Well, because like what's happening is that like I have a system in how I help people. Okay, because it's not just take a blood test. Okay, correct the blood test. It's a whole system that focuses on full restoration of the body, in and out, mental, emotional, physical, physiological. So by the time someone has had this Dutch test from me, if they are inside my stuff, then we've already reduced inflammation heavily. We've already supported cortisol clearance and supporting the stress load that we're dealing with, and we're also supporting the liver and detoxification. So when we get to that test, then it lets us tweak some things to then like, okay, what do we need to do? Because like if a female's dealing with a lot of low estrogen, low progesterone, and low testosterone, and their cortisol levels are sky high, then nutritionally we don't need to go in a caloric deficit. We don't need to try to lose fat. We need to help with nourishment and getting your body fed up.
Hmm.
Now, if a female's dealing with a lot of estrogen dominance with low progesterone, it's like, hey, we got to make sure that we're still sticking to our anti-inflammatory diet, and we also want to make sure that we're staying away from common food sensitivities that we have to further exacerbate and understand, such as like gluten, dairy, soy, especially soy because that's mimics estrogen. That's been proven. But we want to make sure that's in check, and then we also want to make sure that you're implementing the other lifestyle strategies that I gave you. Are you making sure that you're getting enough sleep, or you're optimizing your sleep quality? Are you getting sunlight? Are you doing the digestive shots that I like people to do? Like we got to make sure all those things are in check because by that time then when we get these results, we just have to make a few tweaks, maybe use the suggested supplementation if needed. If they want to exacerbate the results and improve them and improve outcomes, then it takes just a few days in terms of like what they're seeing. But full restoration probably takes a few weeks for their hormones to get back into balance.
Got it.
Um, as well. Some people will say months. Now, it depends, like I said, so depends on how the person is and how metabolically adaptated they are. You
Right.
know, if you've been dieting, you've been stressing for years on end, then it's like, hey, like we need to take some time to restore. We need to take some
Right.
time to heal, bring your hormones back, so forth.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to be overnight. It wasn't overnight getting to this kind of dysfunction.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
I,
exactly.
yeah.
And 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 so another big thing with the test I want to talk about what many people actually deal with is that everyone talks about low cortisol, or I mean high cortisol, but what about low cortisol? Low cortisol is one of the biggest things I actually see in my coaching. Why is that?
And low
Because
cortisol when, like in the morning or
no, all throughout the day. Like
all.
it's like I will see blood test levels that like let me just look it up. I'll show you this. I'll show you like an example of what that looks like here. Like I'll show you, for example, like this is a great one. This is the owners of Dutch. And so what I'm going to hone in on is that like if you take a look here, like this person's cortisol is flatlined. This is adrenal fatigue.
Well,
Like if I just get an AM serum, it might look normal, but it ain't normal. Look at the rest of my day. I'm flatlined.
right.
No caffeine. I actually fall asleep after I have caffeine. I've had women do that, like before coming into me. They're like, Diego, I just had a 300 milligram energy drink and I just went to bed. Dude,
Wow.
that's an issue. That's
Yeah.
an issue. Now, one of the cool things about the Dutch, let's go back to the Dutch, is that we're going to look at those nutritional organic acids as mentioned. And what we're going to look at is like your dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, motivation, mood, focus, energy. And we're going to look at like how it is. And as mentioned up here, all right, may be deficient if high, may be deficient if low, obviously. With the dopamine, we could see this person example, it was low. And that makes sense because when we look at actually her cortisol levels, they were pretty low throughout the day. They weren't that high. Like so as soon as you get up in the morning, you have something called CAR. CAR, like I drive a car. Cortisol awakening response. That's how you get up in the morning. So
Yeah,
by
so
the
it's
way,
normal. It's normal to be
it's
up
normal. It's
tired.
normal to have high cortisol in the morning. That's how you wake up. So if
Right.
anyone says that, whatever, and that's the whole stuff. But anyway, then you take it 2 hours later, and then you should actually have a healthy amount because you're up in the day, you're doing whatever you're doing during the day, whatever you're conquering the day. But what's happening is that people don't do that. They aren't conquering the day. They are surviving through the day, not thriving. So what's happening is that their cortisol level are staying low, like this person, I'd say, is staying low. Why is that? Why is that happening? Well, your body has been in a high stress state for so long. Your adrenal glands have been pumping cortisol for so long that now your adrenals are like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm my cortisol. I'm done. I'm not making you cortisol anymore. You get. I already gave you enough. So then it tanks. So now the body doesn't have no response of cortisol. And as much as people want to bash cortisol, it's highly beneficial.
Right.
Supports your immune system. It supports fat loss. It supports insulin signaling. It supports all these things. So we want a healthy amount of cortisol. It's like Goldilocks. We obviously don't want it too much or too
Right.
little. We want it
Right.
just right. And
We want the
unfortunately,
rhythm to be correct, not
yes,
flipped
exactly.
or
So,
flatlined. Yeah.
and unfortunately, people are not doing that. It's not happening. It's either too much or too little.
Well,
It's all out or nothing. Like most people, it's all out or nothing.
yeah, right, right.
And
Well,
so you're gonna learn that, like for her, like her dopamine was shot too. That's very clear congruence. Add in testosterone being low, she probably this person obviously it's a sample to reference, but this person are probably dealing with the symptoms as mentioned here. She is always tired. She has no motivation. She just wants to stay on the couch all day and not do anything, not because she's lazy, but because she just feels so like tired, so
right,
tired because she has no testosterone. She probably doesn't sleep through the night. And if she does, she probably has hot flashes and night sweats because she has such low estrogen. And so these are the same symptoms that people deal with every day that think they're normal and don't actually understand that, hey, this is actually just your body dealing with something. Because understand this, these symptoms are warning signs to your body saying, hey, there's something going on. And when we talk about what's going on, this is what's going on, you
wow,
know?
wow. And meanwhile,
So,
people over here feel, like you said, lazy or like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I do what other people do? And you get these results, and it's like, this is why. And there's things that we can do to improve it, which is amazing. I definitely want to run this test. I have never done this test, so I would like to do it on myself.
yes.
And you are such a wealth of information on this test,
Oh, yeah.
and what to do. Would you be open to kind of running through my results with me?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I think it would be helpful for people to kind of go, with a real person, with somebody who can, you know, kind of talk about symptoms along with, because, I'm a functional practitioner too. I'm a nurse practitioner. I do a lot of things for my health, but I have a lot of stress and I don't always sleep as well. And so, would love to kind of correlate symptoms that I have with a Dutch test result, and hopefully that would be helpful for other people watching as well.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I can definitely do that for you. It's pretty profound to truly understand like where your hormones are at, especially as a female, because obviously they aggressively cycle throughout the month. So,
Yeah.
like one thing about the Dutch test, there's a few rules to have before taking it. Like you want to make sure that you're in luteal phase, which is days about 19 of your cycle. Um, and Yeah, I'd say actually that's like the biggest thing. You really do want to make sure that you're in luteal phase as a female taking this test, so you can get a congruent progesterone reading, so you can actually get an accurate
Okay.
progesterone reading. It'd be the biggest thing for that.
Got it. And do you have to order the organic acid test? Is that part of the basic Dutch
That's basic. That's part of the basic Dutch. So
part of it?
there's several Dutches. My favorite is the Dutch Complete.
Okay.
Now you can get the Dutch Adrenal, which is just going to be that adrenal. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit less. And then you can get the Dutch Complete, which is like the one shown here, which will show everything. And then you
Yeah.
can add a Dutch Complete card. So what that is, it's a little bit more because it's going to measure your actual cortisol awakening response.
Okay.
Now, do I see that being something that's super important when we're already getting the Dutch Complete? To be honest, no. I think the Dutch Complete is the top tier of the Dutch tests because there's several of them, like I just mentioned. Um, so I'm like the Dutch Complete is going to be by far the best for that. People can get it on my website through Vital Coaching. So if you take a look here, you go to vitalcoaching.com. I'll just so I'm at vitalcoaching.com. They go to the supplement section, and then they just type in a Dutch. They type in the word Dutch, and so they're going to be able to see. There's a few different ones. So cycle mapping, it'd be a little more, but um, the Dutch Complete is kind of what it is. So it's 375, but if people use my code, which is the last name, so the last name shown on this Instagram here, it's Reyes. So if they use it, they're gonna get about $40 off.
Oh,
So
nice.
then that goes down to typically like 337.
Okay. And
So
that's the complete, and that still checks cortisol several times during the day,
oh
right?
yeah, that's going
Still
to show the
within.
full adrenal 24 hour reading of the adrenal, like your full adrenal. And for my
Okay.
clients, they get it for free with me when they're working with me. So,
Okay.
they're allowed to. I mean, they're going to get that test anyway. So, but if someone just like wants to organically, check it out, get it, then most definitely. And to be honest, I'm not just saying this, um, because I know the owner, at least of this website of this company. He's another great functional practitioner, way more than me if you thought that. But anyway, he's just been in the game. But these are probably the cheapest values you're probably gonna find. I mean, yeah, that would be one of the cheapest, unless you're getting it from like I guess like a man. I mean, if you can find it, probably from overseas. Like you could probably get it, but I'd say this would be the cheapest, at least the cheapest I know of. And trust me, I'm the one that provides it for the client, so I'm going my wits and way to help me with like my margins. Talk about business. So that's why I want to be real with it. Like, hey, this is probably the cheapest you can probably find this test. But like I said, my clients get it for free, but it is something pretty beneficial.
Awesome. And that's good to
Obviously,
know that you don't really need the extra cortisol test because the complete seems to give you enough data, enough
Well,
information.
yeah, because I mean, the complete is kind of going to give you that car almost because you do urinate as soon as you get up, so
Right.
that is going to get a reading right then and there.
Right. The extra one uses saliva, is that right?
Yep, yep. The cortisol awakening response, you do use saliva.
Yeah. But you don't see that there's a big difference in terms of
No,
data
not
that you get
typically.
from that.
And that
Okay.
would actually be it's called the Dutch Plus. My apologies. So it's the Dutch Plus because
Okay.
it is going to get that um the morning swabs. If I can even show you because you're gonna do your normal. Now it's all jacked up. Here, hold up. So you're gonna get your normal test kits right here. This is where you're gonna urinate, and then these are the swabs for that morning awakening response. Now, when you just do the Dutch, you're gonna have. Should have brought my Dutch. I have one in my it's in my car, but you're just gonna get these sample swabs where to do the urination for the test.
Okay.
So
Yeah. It
yeah,
seems more
and
cost effective just to do the complete then, since it gives you a good amount of information and not.
oh yeah, you're gonna get a plethora of
I
information
I
from
could
the
tell.
complete.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
So
super
so
complete.
I mean I don't see the benefits here, truthfully, uh, by getting the plus, to be honest, but it is people's preference. But I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, I really appreciate you going through all that. I feel like I learned a huge amount, and so
Yeah,
hopefully others
absolutely.
that watch will as well. And then yeah, I'd love to schedule a time to hop back on once I do that test
Mhm.
and kind of run through the whole thing. I think would be super beneficial for me and anyone watching as well. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, it's just a little bit of like it depends on where you're at in your journey, you know? Like, is it the next step to optimize yourself, or is it the next step to heal yourself? Which one? You know, or both. But yeah, I'm telling you, this is the getting this type of support and help is invaluable, because like you truly understand why I feel the way I feel, and then what I can do to help do it naturally.
Right, right. And
Um,
really optimize health and know that, these symptoms are not just what we have to what we have to suffer through. They're not normal. Just because it's normal to see it all around you doesn't mean that it's normal for our body, right?
yeah, exactly,
Just because it's
and
common, I should say, is not
yeah,
normal.
um and to understand like how to optimize myself. You know, it's like, hey, maybe I'm more prone to dealing with like a lot of stress issues, so I'm going to use some things. I'm going to do make sure my lifestyle is as much aligned with supporting that, you know. And so it's truly looking at that too. I tend to have low progesterone. Like, what can I do around ovulation, or what can I take around ovulation, or what can I take in general to support my progesterone levels, and then a healthy menstruation, you know? Like, that's all stuff to also consider as well. Now there's a lot of other biomarkers that I don't think we got into, such as like you're going to be able to look at your melatonin levels. You're going to look at how well you're metabolizing your cortisol, which pretty much means like how is it actually getting detoxed out through the adrenal glands, through the liver. You're going to be able to look at oxidative stress, something called neuroinflammation, so brain inflammation. We're going to be able to see, um, like I said,
Wow, that's
androgens, and yeah.
very comprehensive test.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why it's kind of a significantly a little bit more obviously than a blood test. Because don't get me wrong, I run blood tests every day too, and I think they're great, especially if I'm trying to get like a thyroid. Obviously, and a blood glucose is great.
Yeah.
Getting A1C is great. But like, yeah, and I forgot I was gonna. I mean, I could text you that too, but I was like, let's set up a time also where you can come on to mine and just talk about what people can do to with their A1C. Because like I said, I mean, I ran 6 tests this week, and obviously, you know, I'm I know what we can do, but it's also nice to get a different view of like, hey, what are things that you like to do with your clients to really focus on reducing that A1C? Because I mean, like I was like, wow, every single one was like either 5.6 to 5.8, like every single one. And I'm
It's
like,
huge.
geez.
It's
I,
huge.
I
I
don't think I've
mean,
ever seen a A1C that was actually like in range. Like I don't think I've ever like, well, and that makes sense because that's why they came to me. But like I just haven't seen that.
yeah, no, I mean, we think that, at least 90% of individuals are having blood sugar spikes on a very regular basis without diabetes. It's the nature of our lifestyle these days. Um, I mean, a study just came out. It was like 1 in 3 teens has pre-diabetes now.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that was a crazy statistic that I just saw as well. Like that
yeah,
was I was when I saw that I was actually I was pretty in shock. I mean, I sent it to my group chat with all my clients. I'm like, "Hey, this is for real."
yeah,
Like
it's serious. I
that
mean,
means that means if we look at this group here, like that like we look at the statistics and you guys have children, like there's a big group that might have that.
right. And, in conventional measures, 5.5, 5.6, I mean, that we think that's good. I don't think that that's optimal. I think it's still too high. And yet, most people are not even there. They're high. They're even higher than that. So it's a big issue.
Well, this
Yeah.
can be a whole different topic, and I think this would be actually a fascinating topic that we can get into.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
like terms of like, I don't think a child can eat so many ho-hos to where their insulin is producing that much and deal with insulin resistance. I really do think it's an environmental
Environmental.
toxicity
I do too.
issue, and I think that more children are born with more residual inflammation than before,
I do too. I do.
and it's this is a serious issue because it doesn't, if an 11-year-old is dealing with diabetes, that does not mean that the person had a poor, what maybe I mean the parents aren't, there's different factors, but more importantly, it doesn't mean that they've been eating like complete crap, and
Agree.
even if they eat a bunch of sugar, like I said, it's impossible, statistically impossible
Yeah.
for them to be dealing with insulin resistance to where
Right.
their body is, their cells are resistant to insulin. That is
I agree with
impossible
that.
for
Yeah.
someone who's in those years of like, that's crazy to think.
Yeah.
And to think that the first thing we go to is to use different types of weight loss medications to support children. That's the first go to.
Yeah.
That has to be a
Not
complete joke.
sunlight, more play outside,
Yes.
moving your body, sleep. Uh,
That is absurd. The first go to is using weight loss medication to support a child in getting their A1C down, their insulin and glucose in check. That is crazy, and even more crazier for those that are with it. So that's a whole different topic. But
Yeah, yeah, we should plan a talk on this because it's rampant and so important for us to address. But yeah, I think the hormone discussion, especially cortisol and how it affects all the other hormones and how that
well, yeah,
contributes to
it's
our
so true
symptoms.
though, because you think about it, like we as an environment, and especially children, they are so upregulated, like neurochemically, where their dopamine is just go go go, social
Yeah,
media,
yeah,
all of it. That yes, your body starts to like dump sugars all the time. So
right.
yes, elevated in our bloodstream is going to be glucose that then will alter the insulin resistance.
It
So
breaks my heart. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and it just,
yeah.
just knowing the environment that she has to navigate through. It's heartbreaking, to see the kids in her
Yeah.
school and what they all have to deal with the food that is being offered, and this constant stimulus. Just you can't be bored. It's like a child. They have to go go go. It's like we're programming their brains to be on, and
Mhm.
I try to my best to really have my daughter practice being bored. We're doing
Yeah,
nothing right now because we have
exactly.
to bring it down, and so it's not easy, but yeah,
Yeah,
definitely an
absolutely.
important conversation for people, especially anyone that has kids, just to teach the people, the next generation, how to live in this world with constant toxins, exposures, and yeah, all
Yeah,
of
I
it.
mean that's huge as well, and it's definitely a great topic that we can touch on because, like I said, it's a huge issue in what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time and all of your information. It was a wealth of information. I learned a lot.
Mhm.
And then we'll touch base and schedule a time to hop back on, and review some more results. I would be really eager to do that.
Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, if anyone wants to find me, then I'll be collab hopefully with this here. Just Diego Reyes Health is my Instagram. My Instagram would be the best way to reach me. If you do type in Diego Reyes onto Facebook search, you will find me as well. And then my website is completevitalitylife.com. So that's another great way to message me. But I would say definitely top tier would just be, Instagram, just being online in the online space. But
Awesome.
um, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll talk very soon.
All right, then, Nancy. We'll talk soon.
All
See you.
right. Okay. Bye, Diego.